students come to MCC from many different journeys. They follow many different paths. And as we recognized earlier, many students come to MCC after serving in our armed forces. Such is the case for our commencement speaker this morning. After serving in the United States Navy during the first Iraqi conflict, George Moses enrolled at MCC to pursue a liberal arts degree. He attended most of his classes at the Damon City campus. I thought that might get a shout out. Where he served as president of student government and as the executive vice president of legislative affairs for the American Student Association of Community Colleges, based in Washington, D.C. A husband and a father of 3, George credits MCC for enriching his life and inspiring him to pursue community leadership and service, which he does currently as the executive director of the Northeast Area Development Incorporated, a community development agency focusing on Sector 8 in the northeast quadrant of the city of Rochester. He is a presence behind many efforts to improve the quality of life in the city of Rochester, and his work and service have been well recognized through a long list of civic awards. Please join me in warmly welcoming yet another MCC alum who has gone on to greatness, George Moses.
First of all, I'm honored actually to even be asked to come before Monroe Community College students, because when Dr. Salvador called me, I thought I was just going to speak to a class. And she said, no, we want you to speak at commencement. I said, okay. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you the formula. Because as most of you, when your students come up here, your graduates, and you grab your degree, I want you to think about 2 things. 1, what next? And then as you see your degree, flip it over and think about this. The 2 Ds. Because if you don't get to work and really start working at it, you will either go to school and defer that bill, the loan that you took out to come to school if you weren't fortunate enough to pay for it yourself, or you will default. So when you come across this stage, my role here is to tell you what to do next. Because after you have your parties, after you go and eat, how are you going to pay for this education, and what are you going to do with it? So the second thing I want students to do is picture yourself here. What if you were asked to give a commencement speech to your alma mater? What would you say? Because the expectation at MCC is you are expected to be great. Don't sleep on what is happening here in terms of you had Senator Schumer, you had the federal level. You had Lieutenant Governor Bob Duffy. You had the state level. And then you had the county. You have reached to all levels of government, but you must use it. When they say send them resumes, I am amazed at folks who don't do it. Send them your resumes. That's how we were able to make our connections. That's how I was able to make my connections. When they said, we'll help you, they meant it. So as you think about your speech, think about what would you say to the faculty and administration. The first thing should be, thank you. Now listen for the response. The immediate response will most likely be, you're welcome. Now stay there. Your welcome is not just a greeting. Your welcome means you're welcome to continue to come back. You're welcome to come back for help. Use it. The first Iraqi conflict, Desert Shield before Desert Storm, was in the 90s. This is 2011. I'm still coming back to MCC for help. Because when they say you're welcome, they mean it. I think about Joan Moorhead. If you ever see her out in the community, go back to school, go back to school, go back to school, go back to school. Use what they're telling you. So as the students, what would you say to your support system? Not just mothers and fathers, because some folks may not come from or have the benefit of the mother and father. That support system, that auntie, that uncle, that brother, that sister, that in spite of what they may not have been able to do, they still encouraged you. What I would say to them is don't give up. Thank you for not giving up on that student, because the path, as they come across this stage, we know you were on that path. To constantly push them, get up, go to school. Who gonna watch this baby today? Who gonna pay this bill that's coming in the mail today? Go to school. The secret with them is, as long as you keep doing well, they'll continue to help you. And all they want you to do is continue to give back and learn those lessons. So what are you going to say to them? What are you going to say to the class when you're up here? And then finally, what are you going to say to the class? You have the traditional student and the non-traditional student. Traditional student is come right out of high school, going to college. You're young, you're full of energy, and you want to do a lot of things, and you're excited. How do you keep them inspired? You keep telling them, continue to do it. That energy is what we're going to need. We've heard a lot about the problems with young folks. It's really not as bad as we think it is. If you think about the young folks who are on campus with you, you will see them at class struggling right alongside of you. You continue to really just encourage them to do well because they actually set as mentors, role models for the next group coming up. I was excited when I went out to the Brighton campus, and I like to look at some of the traditional students. And as I was at Brighton, from when I was there, and there was the Brick Lounge, which is really not there anymore. You got a beautiful pond, you got student housing. It's a fantastic building. I was excited because when we first started at Damon, oh my God, that type of facility downtown, that type of energy downtown. When everyone else is saying downtown is horrible, you hear enough about Liberty Pole, you hear enough about the problems. But MCC has always maintained a positive presence, not only in the county, but a commitment to the city. Imagine if there was a facility similar downtown. Because that was part of my path, because I was the other student. I was a non-traditional student. I actually have 5 children. 2 of them are just out of the house, and I got 3 left to go. So I had to really better myself. And that's the number one indicator. You've heard it before. The key to success is education because no one can take it from you. It's the truth. So we all talk and we reiterate the same things, but I would encourage you really just to listen. I listened. I came back, and I continue to come back. I used the advice. I used the connections. We were able to build a multi-million-dollar organization, and now I'm fortunate to be able to lead it. I had an issue with what's going on in education. Clap for, not for me, but what you're going to do, because you're expected to do it. I had an issue with education. I was very fortunate to really go out and say, well, look, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to complain, and really start a presence for freedom schools here in the Rochester area. I think about Shayla. After she graduates, she's getting on a bus in a couple of hours, and she's going to give back on a 12-hour trip down to Tennessee to give back. We're expected to do that. That is our expectation as we leave here. MCC has prepared you. Now it's your turn. What are you going to do? I took my experiences, and the one I'm actually the most proud of is I'm able to provide jobs for MCC alumni. I always look back in terms of, I look on those resumes, and if I see something about MCC, you have an advantage. Bob Duffy just told you, if he sees MCC, you have an advantage. 75% of our staff is MCC graduates or currently attending MCC. If we don't give ourselves chances, we can't expect anyone else to. So as you come across the stage today, your family graduates you on a major milestone. Now you have to say to yourself, now what am I going to do as I give back, as I move forward? Thank you.